what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Paul and Chocolate Sane. How are you both doing?
Good morning.
Doing pretty good.
Oh, you're suddenly both really quiet. You're okay in the pre-show. Well, I haven't actually spoken to you, like Chocolate.
Yeah.
Everyone goes shy when the live show starts. That's all that is.
I'm not shy. I'm working.
You're working at the moment. Maybe just housekeeping between Paul and I. Oh, let's get the link out first so we can actually get some live. Maybe some of the guests. Just give me 10 seconds. Yeah, refresh your page if you're already watching. Right, let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any signs of Earth-based curvature?
Nope.
Signs of Earth-based axial rotation?
Well, according to that pilot yesterday, there might have been some. According to the pilot.
No, he was getting confused. He claimed that there was only one reference frame and the Earth and the atmosphere travelled as one, when in fact the gyroscope he claimed was a demonstration of two reference frames is then negated by the fact that he's claiming there's only one, just holding two mutually exclusive positions that are contradictory to each other. Quite happy to do so and laugh about it when we point it out. Hey, 10th man.
Good morning, all.
Good morning. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No way of knowing.
Chocolate? Paul?
No, sir.
No, sir. I had a bite of food, so no, sir.
No worries. Any scientific evidence of gravity? Hey, Ranty.
No.
Hello.
Hello.
No.
What's this gravity thing you
evidence
speak of?
Magical force of the floor? No. There's no evidence of that.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Just in their pictures.
Ranty? Anything on your travels for a molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? What's that you say? No molten iron core, Eleanor? Oh, that's a shame. No, I know, it's just made up. What about any evidence of gas pressure being maintained without a container?
Absolutely no way.
Nope.
Last but not least, any evidence of the presupposed R value, Earth radius? R.
No, they can't
That
even.
ball of twine I've been waiting on. Oh, sorry. That ball of twine I've been waiting on. They just said they just canceled the order, said they can't fulfill it. So I guess that proof's out the window.
When you can't even display or show 8 inches per mile square, how are you going to prove the R value?
No, right. Any evidence of Earth curvature just comes with the perspective hijacking curve calculations that ignore angular size change with distance and call the effect Earth curve. There is no 8 inches per mile squared Earth curve, only the effects of perspective.
Yeah, they're using our optics against us instead of explaining it the way this show does.
So, I don't know when Ranty gets back to his mic. He called me up quite excited earlier because he'd gone to look for some boats over the horizon videos. How are you doing, Sleeping Warrior? Can you hear us? No sound.
In and out.
No sound, Anthony. Well, hopefully
Yeah,
we'll get to...
I saw his camera on the beach.
Sleeping Warrior was giving Ranty crap about his non-tripod.
Okie dokie then. So Ranty was telling us earlier about some boats over the horizon videos that he'd found, specifically from Red's Rhetoric, and I'm hoping he's going to show us precisely what he's going to assert, because there was previously an assertion that mirages are actually Earth curve, and that there's an obstruction occurring when things seem to be miraging down upon themselves towards the obstruction, or the claimed obstruction of the horizon itself being the Earth curve, but we don't actually see that effect, and Ranty had found a nice example of that. Hopefully he'll come back to the mic at some point, otherwise this will be me padding with filler indefinitely, talking about Red's Rhetoric. I'm trying, says Anthony.
Give me 1 minute, Nath, I'll be ready.
Yeah, it was interesting yesterday, Nathan, on the when that fella came on with the gyro question. He waited 2/3 into the conversation before he spilled the beans that, oh yeah, the atmosphere is stuck to the Earth and goes with it. He never brought that up earlier.
Anthony making some noise.
Am I here?
Yes, you are here. Good to have you, Anthony.
Nathan, what's the setting I need in Hangouts for setting my microphone through the desk?
Set it to aux output of the desk. Voice meter aux out. That's what the mic should be set to. Got Ranty back yet? Oh, we got him sharing. Got his off mic. Oh, excellent. There we go. Now we're talking. All right, over to you, Ranty. Everyone else, if you can pop yourselves on mute.
Okay, no worries.
Hey,
Well,
just before you do, hey Arwin, how you doing?
Hello.
Good to have you. Right, you're on, Ranty, in your own time.
well, yeah, I mean, the assertion by the globe that boats go over the curve, and I thought I'd just have a look, and I typed it into YouTube just to see, you know, what would be the first few results. Of course, top of the list is Red's Rhetoric with a video that this boat here, he's filming this boat, and he says it goes over the curvature of the Earth. Well, I saw his edited video, and then he gave a link to the unedited video. So this is a couple of still shots that I've taken from the unedited video. So this is the boat as we would normally see it. You know, if you zoom in, you've got you imagine the guy's probably sat down in this part here, and there's the canopy sort of thing. There's the door, some windows, the sail, obviously. Here's an image later on. So at 3:50:05 on his timing, this is the same boat. Do you notice anything different, firstly, about the two images?
They're about the same, other than you've got this giant, what looks like a door and windows on the one.
Yeah.
It also looks like the sail is about the same size, but the bottom seems to be a different size.
Or a different shape, more to the point, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm going to elaborate on that with this next image. So what I've done here is I've taken out the image that we get with all the detail in it, and I've scaled it to size so that if you look at the actual sails, the sails are the same height. There's no difference at all. Even the canopy essentially is the same height. But look at this inferior mirage that's happening at the bottom. Can you see how the inferior mirage, firstly, on this canopy, this door, is lower, because there it is on this part here, but it is substantially lower, like it's being dragged down. The image is being dragged downwards. And then we get in the inferior mirage.
Sorry to interrupt you, Auntie. Hey, Pumpkin Puff, can you hear us?
Yes.
Good to have you.
Hey guys.
Hello, good to have you.
So if I open it in, just to give you a better indication of that, I'll open it in Paint so that you guys I can show you the lines that I'm going to put in now. So let's do it in, we'll do it in red. So here we've got line of sight to the top of the sails, yeah? To the bottom of the sail, pretty much scale to size. You know, you wouldn't say there's any issues with that. The only problem comes is when you're trying to spot this door on this image. So when you're trying to spot the door here, you would expect the door to be in this location here, but it's not. It's actually substantially lower. You know, you're talking it's that much lower to the top of the door, whereas here it's here. So what it's showing is, and then obviously you've got the inferior mirage that runs through this particular image. So I'm going to say that all of that boat is there. It's just being pulled down at the surface layer and turned into an inferior mirage. That's what I see. I hope everyone else can see that. And when he claims that this is the proof of the boat going over the curvature of the Earth, it's absolutely nothing of the sort whatsoever. That image isn't representative of this image. You wouldn't be able to say what this boat looks like from this image. You know, if you took this out here and I asked you to say, what's this boat going to look like? You wouldn't be able to say it looks like this because there's no data in this to get that image. But with the sails, you could clearly say that the sails, you would be able to identify the sails, not a problem. But as for the boat, there's no way that you'd be able to say that this boat is this boat because it looks nothing like it. It's just been, essentially all the data has been lost. It's been jumbled up. It's now going to an inferior mirage. It's not in the correct place. It's actually lower than it should be. And there's where your boats go over the curvature of the Earth. It's all optical. Absolutely.
I just add one thing to that. So,
yeah.
If you can just draw one line on the apparent horizon, please.
Yeah.
That's what they're claiming is the Earth curve. That's what's claimed to be obstructing this boat, if you presuppose you're on a sphere. Now, if that's the thing that's obstructing it, that's not what's happening. We're not losing the bottom of the boat to an Earth curve obstruction. It's being miraged down upon itself, and the rest of the scale of the boat remains the same. Therefore, number one, it's not going over anything. Number two, it is being obscured by what? The leading edge of a sphere? No, that's not happening. Literally, that is not what's obscuring it. Is this accounted for in the Earth curve calculator? No. The only assertion is Earth curve. The only thing they do with Lite is bend it back flat a bit more so you account for super zoom cameras. But is this the leading edge of a sphere causing an obstruction? Absolutely not. Good demonstration.
And also, yeah, thank you, Nath. And just one last thing, I just want to be clear with this, that the inferior mirage drops the level of this doorway here substantially down. It literally, you can see the difference if I try and make that a little bit thinner. This is the line here from the top of that door. It has been dropped substantially compared to the mast. The masts are all stayed the same, but then the door on the inferior mirage has been dropped drastically down. So anytime that we're trying to sort of like compare like for like with inferior mirages, we can refer back to this and say, well, this is the effect that the inferior mirage does. It literally distorts the image and pulls the data downwards. So in effect, if you were to do a blink test on these doors, you could even claim that the bottom of the hull should be here by using that particular logic. But if you use reason and understand that all of the boat is here, it's just hidden behind the inferior mirage. And this is the effect that the inferior mirage is doing. It's literally pulling down the visible part of the door here.
Let's not call it reason.
Just
Let's call it
on.
Evidence.
Just before you move on, so I'm going to bring up the image of Barrow in Furness just to give you an idea of exactly the same thing that's occurring. So if you can see on my screen now, this is another ranty image. And you've got fish opening its mouth and closing its mouth as the air varies and causes the mirage to raise and lower. So you've got a complete fold line through this fish's mouth on the whole image. Now, has the height of this building changed? No. Is this obscuring something? No. We've got a mirage. Everything above it is in exactly the same place you would expect it to be. But you've got a doubling of whatever it is. This ends here, and then you've got doubling down to what they claim is obscuring stuff. No, there's no obstruction going on. None. Excellent demonstration, Ranty. Hope you clip this one out as well.
Yeah, I will do. And I'll get it put on my account later.
Well, in that case, just before anybody butts in, so have you got your GoFundMe? Stick it in the chat, and then you've got it plugged again.
Yeah, I'll stick it in the chat.
So Ranty's got currently got a GoFundMe for a Mavic Pro drone. So he's hoping to do some observations over at Loch Ness. Last year he did a GoFundMe for a P1000 that was extremely successful and has yielded some great results along with other people's P1000 footage. Drones are the thing of the moment. Ranty's our man in terms of going out and actually doing this stuff, along with Anthony and various other people who go out there. We haven't seen Travis for a while, have we? But nevertheless, before I sidetrack, go and check out Ranty's GoFundMe campaign. Chuck him a quid or something if you can't afford very much money. I haven't contributed yet. I will if we do a Rantyathon ever. Hey, life is short.
Right.
Hey guys. Hey.
Hey, Nathan.
We're on the. Are we on the light? Which one are we on? Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980?
Yeah, we're broadcasting live to the hardcore Nathan Oakley fans. So.
Oh right. Okay. So I can actually just stick the link in there now. Then. That's cool.
You can directly market your campaign to however many people are watching currently. I don't know exactly how many people.
Yeah, and I'll tell you for why I want to do this stuff. You see that boat that's just passed literally it's just passed on screen. If I was able to know where all these boats are these small boats. For instance, I'm always seeing little pleasure boats that go out, but you can never track them by GPS. However, if I have a drone that I can fly out there and know how far away that boat is, because I can literally hover above them and say, yeah, okay, I've got a GPS for this location now, and then I can film the boat with the P1000, I'll be able to prove conclusively that the horizon isn't where they say it is, ever. Because it's flat. It is flat. Water Lake's flat where I film. I can prove that, and a drone will drastically help that.
So if you're watching this on, just one more thing, I will get to you, like I promise, 10th man, I haven't forgotten you. If you're watching this on Nathan Oakley 1980, then check out the link that hopefully Ranty will publish as we're doing this. But go to his GoFundMe, check out his Maverick Pro footage, and if you're watching this on Ranty Flat Earth channel, subscribe to Nathan Oakley and Nathan Oakley 1980 immediately. Anyway, 10th man, over to you.
Yes, again, excellent presentation, Ranty, but for terminology purposes, since I'm familiar with boats, that would be a window, not a door. The hatch or the door, that, as we say here as landlubbers, would be behind the bow. So that dark image is a window letting light into the cabin area. Just for terminology.
Okay, I'll take responsibility for that. When I saw the image, I said to Ranty, "You mean the door?" And then that's just what we referred to it. That was me that called it a door. So don't blame Ranty for that. That's me. Sorry, Ranty.
Yeah, I just wanted to conclude actually. Now that you've just mentioned the windows, it's just jogged my memory. Is that on this image you can clearly see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas, darker areas around this, which is the 5 windows on this side. Are these windows all windows? Hello?
Yeah. Yes, those would be porthole windows, and then the big one that looks darker than the rest is a big one that allows more light into the cabin. And under the canopy, right behind the second sail, would be the way in and the way out.
Right. So would you agree then that it appears that the windows here, there's a window there, there's a window there, 3, 4, and then the big one in the middle. So we'll just do a line across that. Would you agree that those 5 areas are these 5 areas here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's no doubt. It's obvious.
So can you see how much higher they are? Sorry, lower they are on the inferior Mirage one, and yet it's scaled correctly with the actual. Well,
we actually see compression and a Mirage at the same time.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, because this is what I said to Nathan today. I said, this is what I've been looking for. I've asserted that the compression happens behind the inferior Mirage, right? And I've been told by the Globers that's ridiculous, you can't prove it. Specifically Rumpus, who has said it cannot be proved. You cannot prove that in compression happens behind the inferior mirage. Well, I said, well, it would make perfect sense if it did. It's just that we can't see it. On days that when we get clear days and we can see the compression, or the days we get the inferior mirage, can I prove that it happens behind it? No. Well, I think that these two images here demonstrate that effect. It's on the cusp of being an inferior, well, it is an inferior mirage, but it literally is between the two. You can see the compression happening because it's being dragged down, and you can see the inferior mirage. It has both in the one shot. It's just fantastic.
Well,
Hey,
you could see
Randy,
in the picture that is not compressed, that the port side, which is what we're seeing on the sailboat, the port side, which is the left side, on the hull itself, I can't make out any portholes. But above the hull, where the deck is, I could see those windows plus that big black one. Then on the second image, where the compression and the mirage is, all those windows, all those portholes move to where the port hole is. So it's obviously being compressed.
hey, just real quick, just a point of, this gets complicated, I know, but the fold line is still water.
Sorry? You think that's so? You think this is water underneath this area here? You think's water?
Yes.
This area. Right. Okay.
So it can't block it. It's not like an air layer necessarily that's blocking something that should be there, because in order for that to happen, that apparent water line you have to assume is the true horizon.
Okay. So how long have you listened to my work?
Well, hold on. So what perspective does, right, is it takes all the most distant things from the sky, right, and the distant things from the ground, and they compress towards a vanishing line. So when you look at a landscape, right, you're looking at the sky as it's descending towards the ground. So if you're assuming that the apparent water line is the actual horizon line, then your air layer that is blocking the physicality of the boat it can't happen within perspective. It would be something that would be high up in the sky.
Okay. Can I just say that your argument is like from 18 months ago and has been superseded by evidence brought out over the past 12 months by flat earthers that demonstrate categorically that these inferior mirages do and can happen and happen all the time in the air layer above the water.
But Randy, we've seen boats that go away within this layer and they ascend within this layer just as they would within water. They're not floating in air.
Can I try and rephrase it or repackage it slightly? Life is short. So, Ranty, if you imagine where the sea line is, now the water expands into the distance beyond that boat. Do you agree?
Yes.
So therefore, the water that looks like it's below the 5 holes is in fact rising up, obviously in a smaller and smaller amount because it's further and further away, but it ipso facto is going to, if it was to continue and not be obscured by a limited angle or this deck layer of miraging, it would continue beyond the boat. Would you agree?
What do you mean, this inferior mirage?
No.
No.
Just let me say it again, Ranty. So there is things further in the distance beyond this boat. Fact.
Yes.
The Earth just continues beyond the boat. Therefore, let's pretend it was a clearer day and there was no mirage. You would see the water expand beyond the boat. Therefore, you'd see it sitting in the water, like on the right, but you'd also see things behind it with the horizon.
It depends on the angle, though.
Yeah, I appreciate that in this instance the angle is so limited, and we do have a mirage layer. I agree, that's self-evident in the pictures. But what I'm saying is, if it wasn't there, the water would ipso facto rise up, give you a higher horizon, and it would show sat in the water, not on the horizon, if you could see further, or you had a wider angle, or there wasn't the mirage layer. So if that's the case, it fact is sitting in water, and there is water behind it. You just can't see it because of the limited angle. So when Life is Short says that is the waterline because that it's reached the limited angle, that doesn't make the lower waterline an actual leading edge. In other words, he's agreeing with your point.
Yeah, I am. It's just a I guess it's just a detail that, or a conceptual detail for how it works. There's no disagreement with, I guess, you know. But how about this picture? Take from your red line and your sailboat on the left, and copy paste water from that apparent or where that water is, and just put it between the red line and the apparent water line. And that's my argument.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
because
so
now you
that
just
would,
have
that
a
would
boat
bring it
that
up.
has
Just
the bottom obstructed.
But can you just concisely summarise what that would do, Life is Short, just so the audience also... I know Banty's just got it, but if you can just concisely summarise precisely what you're describing happening.
Well, it just means that as that boat that has that inferior Mirage on it, that's a further boat. That boat's further away. The bottom is a little bit more obstructed. We have no problem, you know, explaining why that occurs.
This is really random, but this is the water line probably up here, but the sky
right, we don't know.
Down.
Right, if you had like a sunset, you know what I mean, that something super tall and super far away that set, then you could kind of determine possibly where the true horizon line really is. But because we don't really have that, you're kind of guessing. You know what I mean?
No, that's perfect. No, that's perfect. I'll reiterate that. So if the sun in the top field that's not got the limited angle descended towards the horizon through perspective, then you would see it descend into that fold line on the left, where the boat's showing 2 windows and 2 holes, what we were calling a door.
Or a higher fold line.
Or slightly higher, notwithstanding the fact that I've explained to Ranty that it potentially extends much further into the distance on a clearer day and with a wider angle. So yeah, it might be that it's another inch above that, because that's where the actual horizon is.
Let me just find an image. I'm just going to have a look for an image that demonstrates that point.
Hey guys, I have to go. I apologize. This is a good topic. I love talking about it. I just unfortunately I can't talk too much today.
No, thank you for your input.
Keep up the good work, everybody, and thanks for all the stuff you guys do.
No, thank you very much for your input. Life is Short, always appreciated.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Later, Travis.
See you guys.
Hey Nathan, wasn't it a couple of weeks ago that I think it was Life is Short, or maybe somebody else showed the picture of the 2 fishermen on a boat way out there, and the boat totally disappeared underneath them. It looks like the 2 guys were floating on water.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that's exactly what Life is Short is saying.
Yeah, well put. I'm glad we've had 3 or 4 concise explanations, one after the next. There was a slight disagreement along the line from Ranty, but that's fine.
I thought. Well, I wasn't sure who he was in, and the way it started off, I thought, is he trying to say that the water line is, when he's not? What he's saying is the water line is higher than the boat, but due to the atmosphere reflecting down on itself, you can't see it.
Exactly.
Essentially,
it is still extending. It doesn't mean that that's where the water ends, but that's it's a conflation or a confusion between the 2 different viewpoints. So when we're describing that water line, the apparent horizon, it's like in this instance, the water line is definitely not the horizon, but the claim from the globe Earth is that that water line is the leading edge of a sphere. Now, in the case of the pictures we're seeing, there is definitely land beyond that water line. It's rising up with the horizon. That's the point. We're looking across a flat plane. But for the limited angle and mirage layer, well, the mirage layer is bringing the sky down. Well, that doesn't mean that the actual claim of a leading edge is real, because it isn't. It's part of a mirage for a start.
Yeah, I've found that image that I wanted to share with you guys.
Excellent. I love these kind of shows. We're in a concise housekeeping, a bit of a rough start with a few gaps, but now we're right into the thick of it. Ah, wicked. I'll shut up now, Ranty.
You love this image because it's like it has 2 inferior mirages on 2 separate boats. So we have boat 1 in the foreground, and these 2 parts here are of the same boat, a bigger boat in the distance. But the inferior mirage is much higher up on this one and much lower down on this one, proving that it's an angle rather than the curvature of the Earth. Because let me open this with paint.net. Yeah. Oh, and let's get a line in here.
Optical flat.
You like this, don't you, Tony?
That was
Yeah.
Alan.
So there we've got the line for the inferior. Let me do it in something a bit brighter than that so you can all see it. I hate this.
That's good enough. You can
There
see
we
it.
go.
Oh, there we go. That's
There
much
we
better.
go. That's better. So we've got inferior Mirage on the boat in the background. Maybe a tad higher, maybe we should lower it a tad. And then we've got an inferior Mirage on this boat in the foreground. Now, if it was an inferior, if this was the curvature of the Earth, this area here, if this area was the curvature of the Earth, i.e. the leading edge is the inferior Mirage on this boat in the foreground, then you wouldn't have had the inferior Mirage on the background one higher up. You would have had the inferior Mirage on the back one at this height here, which would have meant you'd have seen more of the boat in the background. You'd have seen more of it for a start, and the inferior Mirage would have started in this location. But because it doesn't do that, and you've got two clear lines of two separate inferior Mirages, this has to be, from your perspective here, point A, as you're looking at the first boat. So let's go to boat 1. I'm just going to draw a crappy little angle for you. So that you guys can conceptualize.
Nathan, you got a super chat.
Oh, shout out. I didn't see who it is.
So
I'll wait.
Pirate.
I'll wait. Thank you, Ranty. Arwin, I will look back. I don't want to interrupt Ranty's presentation, though.
This
Thank
is
you
why
for
it's
the
an
super-
angle. Point. This is the first boat. This is the first boat here, this white one. It's nearer, and the inferior Mirage starts at this height, just due to pure perspective. And you can tell it's an angle rather than the curvature of the Earth, because on the next one, it's higher up, where it appears higher. Now, if that had been the curvature of the Earth, you'd have had just one straight line, like so.
Hey, Randy,
Yep.
you're showing that it's going up, not down, like on the ball that would fall away from you. It's the opposite of what they're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's upward.
Exactly.
That's another Life is Short point. You know, another big shout out to Life is Short. But yeah, it's doing the complete opposite. It's upward refraction, if you want to call it that.
And then here's a series of images that I took from, it was called Boats Disappear, No Curve, Optical, Flat Earth. Now, this is the one that I get a lot of stick for from the globe earthers, because they say that this is proof that the boats go over the curvature of the Earth. And I say, no, it's proof that the boat goes into the inferior Mirage layer and disappears. And they won't have it. Well, what I've done is I've taken some still shots of this boat as it's heading away from me, getting further away, going further away. What can you see happening? Here we go. Beautiful fold line starting here. The boat's getting smaller due to perspective because it's going further away. Absolute clear inferior Mirage here. You can see the white part of the boat Mirage back down on it. And I'll just scroll through a few more images. This one particular is very evident. Now, the boat doesn't look like a boat. You can't tell it was the same boat. It doesn't even look like a boat, let's be honest. But the inferior Mirage is creeping up. Well, it appears that the inferior Mirage is creeping up the height of the boat, but it's not. It's just because the boat's going away, it's getting smaller. So due to perspective, it's actually getting nearer to the horizon. Like so, just due to perspective, because it's getting smaller as it further away it goes. And this angle is causing the inferior Mirage to creep up.
Hold on. For some reason, the screen sharing has stopped working. So I'm going to reload this Hangout. Hopefully it doesn't cock everything up in the meantime. Session terminated. Come on, let me back in. You want to try sharing your screen again, Ranty? Hopefully that'll sort the problem out.
I'm sharing screen again, am I? Yeah.
If you can reshare, for some reason, I hate doing that when the panel's full because it means I don't get back in. But yeah, if you can try sharing again, hopefully we'll have continued without too much of a delay.
Can you see? Shall I go back a few?
No, it's just not working. You're going to have to do the same, Ranty. Restart or refresh your page. It's just a glitch that occasionally happens with Hangouts. I've never had an instance where it's happened to two people at the same time. So it's obviously a Hangouts glitch as opposed to a my computer glitch, because it's happened to Ranty. He lost his screen share. I lost my screen share. Hopefully you can bring it back in. Perfect timing as someone else has just joined, so you've got back in the nick of time.
How's that?
Perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
please continue.
Okay, so some screenshots of this boat. I don't know how much you saw, so I'll go back to the first one. I'll just get rid of that so you can't see it. So there's the boat. What's happening is the boat's going further away, so its angular size is changing. It's getting smaller and smaller as it goes off into the distance. What we see in a moment is clear evidence of an inferior mirage starting at the bottom here. You can see the white part reflected down, and you can see this fold line starting in the middle here. It's a little more evident in this particular image. You can see it a lot clearer how white it is at the bottom. The inferior mirage line is here where my cursor is. Now the boat is pretty much undistinguishable. You can't tell, that it would even be a boat. It doesn't look much of anything. It's just being smudged and blurred out. Certainly isn't what you'd expect to see of the image that they portray when a boat goes over the curve. Nice, clear, crisp images. It's not what we see. So this boat is getting smaller. So due to the fact that its angular size is getting both width and height should be getting smaller, this boat is, as it gets further away, getting nearer to the horizon. It's getting smaller and nearer to the horizon because it's going further away. And what's happening is it goes further away. It's slowly going down. It's getting nearer to this inferior mirage line here, this angle. You'll see it in this particular image. Can you see now it's almost got rid of all the blue on the boat, and we're just basically mirroring white up and down. And eventually, here we've got another image. Eventually this boat will just merge into the inferior mirage. And this is the last image that I just showed you, which was this one, where you can basically not really see anything of the boat. But when you highlight it, you can see the top part of the mast here, the bit of the boat here, and you can see a clear inferior mirage line there. So all this here, all this area underneath the red line is atmosphere. And the boat itself is still all visible, or should be all visible, if it wasn't for this atmosphere here underneath it, causing the inferior mirage. No boat went over the curve, Nathan.
An excellent presentation, Renty.
Wonderful.
Right,
Wonderful.
there's a few guests to say hello to, so I'll do that first. So, how you doing? Who was first in? I think it was Warren. How you doing, Warren? I'm all right, Nathan. Jolly good to have you. How you doing, Chris?
All right, Nathan. Good,
Hey,
Nathan.
Warren. Hey,
Who's Chris?
I mean, Red Rhetoric.
There you go. So,
Oh my god.
I'd like if I could add to Ranty's presentation.
Push can.
I mean, I don't know if I need to. It's just I would just be beating the horse to death, as they say. But yeah. So that is. I've been working this morning, so I just logged on, but I kind of caught Ranty at the end there. But if I can, I'll just do a quick presentation just to reiterate what Ranty was saying. I don't really have anything totally new to add, but it is a really great point, and it's one that I put a video out, I don't know, a week or two ago about it, but got my screen up. So this, I don't know if you've seen this picture. This is a picture that Jose took. It's not letting me zoom in. Let me see. I'll have to use paint or something. So yeah, same thing. So we have an observation here of varying distances to different objects, and depending on the distance, the fold line, the mirror line, starts either lower in the frame if the object is closer. So here you see a bird in the near foreground, and this is less than 6 miles away, maybe 4 miles, maybe 5. This line is about 6 miles away.
So what you're saying is the bird's got its own horizon line because it's so close.
That's correct. Because it's on, this is the point of plane that the bird is on, right? So it only makes sense when you deduce that the point of the plane you're on is where your horizon is, right? The horizon on a flat plane is a vanishing point. Well, the vanishing point right now is here for the bird because that's where the mirage is. And as you go further up the plane, as Ranty was pointing out, the mirage line also increases in height, or appears to increase in height, because you're on a flat plane. So look here, you're going up 6 miles. You're going up to now 6 miles, and look how much higher the Mirage line is. And you would go up to 10 miles. It's a little bit higher, and then back, and then 12 miles, which is this building here, this furthest building in the middle. That building's 12 miles. The Mirage line is right here, cutting it right in the middle. Well, if we're either, you know, not, I wouldn't even say assuming, if we're deducing that the fold line is where the plane is that that object is on, well, then we're saying the plane or the ground is up at this point. How is the plane or the ground rising as you're getting further? Isn't it supposed to fall?
Flat.
And I think that was Ranty's point.
It's flat. I'm glad we're getting to the point now on this show where you did it earlier, where you point out the obvious. It's doing it because it's a flat plane that we're looking across. That's why this effect is obvious. So previously people have said sarcastically, and you kind of did it at the end, well, isn't it supposed to be dropping? Well, who cares what they assert from now on? It's doing this because the Earth's flat. We're observing a flat plane with perspective. That's it. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no worries. Here's another one. Same thing. We have a Mirage line here because this this guy on the jet ski is close. We have one here where the second red line is because this boat is slightly farther, and we have one way up here. Well, because you're going further away, and when you go further away on a plane, the perspective makes your eye rise. And here's the crazy thing. This line, and this line are all level. They're all on the same level plane, but they all appear to rise up because of perspective. That's it. It's really an incredible thing to realize once you hit flat Earth and you come to this point. I mean, it took me 2 years to realize this. And I'm not trying to steal Ranty's thunder. I'm really just adding to what he was just presenting. It's the same evidence. It's the same thing. So
we've got a concaver in the panel in the chat that says, if the horizon's rising, it must be concave. Like, no, you would be ignoring the same thing, i.e. perspective. Things getting smaller with distance. The horizon rising. That's just perspective. Doesn't mean you can reverse engineer what they claim is ball maths curving away. Well, no, we're not demonstrating the leading edge of anything curving up for a concave Earth. We're just demonstrating simple perspective. Sorry, carry on again. Keep you interrupting. My apologies, Chris.
So I found this image, and it says $20 personal use. I might buy it because I might be I'm going to make a video about this, but I might be using this image in the video because I've seen this exact same phenomenon on a boat that goes out into the water. So what you see here is, I'd like to start actually from the bottom. What's happening is the car is coming closer to you from the distance, but I want to start at the bottom because what we can do is work backwards. So we know this car, look how it's sort of in the center of the camera, right? Well, it's in the center because it's on a flat plane. It's not floating in the air, right? The Mirage, the inferior Mirage is down here. You can see it.
You sure it's not super duper looming?
Well, if you have evidence for that, maybe we'll look at it, but I haven't seen any. So as we go backwards, okay, what do we notice? We notice that the car is getting smaller due to perspective. We see the fold line here. We still see the fold line here. We still see the fold line here. It's getting smaller. Now this also is a good example of I believe it's of your, what is it, Rayleigh criterion, where things are, once they go so far, you can't depict them and then they just kind of blur together and merge together. And then again, further away, now it's more of a blob. But here, look, we still see the plane is right in the middle. It's not coming up over a hump. Here it is, blob, more of a blob right in the middle, more of a blob right in the middle, and more of a blob right in the middle. I mean, this could be, 2-3 miles further than this first image. So, and I've seen this on and Ranty, maybe you showed it again. I jumped on late, but I've seen this with boats on the water. The boat starts here, and then it ends up here, and they say, oh, look, it's gone over the curve because, look, the bottom's missing, and it's all blurred together, so it looks like one object. It's a trick. That's all it is.
Excellent. I agree. It's just a hijacking of perspective. That's all we've got. Any assertion of any of these effects will always come from the globe side with the same cause. Oh, it's Earth curve causing this. No, it's not. It's just perspective.
Shout out to the Mind of God who donated £25 to the drone.
Cool. And as we're doing shout outs, let's scroll back up and see if I can find the super chat. Shout out to Proficient Pirate for the super chat. Thank you very much indeed for your support. I really do appreciate it. Sorry I didn't get a shout out earlier.
Nathan, as a summary to what we just saw, reflection and mirroring effect could only happen on a flat plane, because if we're on the curved Earth,
I agree.
It's falling away from you, there's no way you could see that mirroring effect.
Yeah, I agree. You can't have a reflection the way we see it if it's a curve. It would have to at least. I don't know what it would do on a curve. Would it squash up on a curve, or would it not? Would it cut off the bottoms on the reflection?
No, it would be falling away from you, and it would be pointing at a different angle to something else if it was falling away.
I think it would chop the bottoms off on the reflection, wouldn't it? Couldn't have a reflection of the thing that you're looking at.
Or it would be skewed.
When you see pictures of still water and it reflects the sky like a mirror, like the moon and the stars are shown in the water, water is a mirror. And if it's curving away from you, that image would point and send it to another direction. It's not doing that.
No, fortunately, we've got some beautiful ranty images on screen that make endless, great demonstrations of the flat plane we dwell atop. Yes,
Hang on.
It's flat.
There are no beautiful ranty images. I'm sorry, definitely not beautiful ranty images.
Have me on. Are you not seeing what's on screen now?
On yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not an image of ranty.
Yeah, it is. Image. Oh, that's
an image
slick.
of a mountain.
Did you hear what he did?
Landscape.
Do you hear what he just did? He said that's not an image of ranty.
Yeah.
That's not what he said. Ranty
Yeah,
images.
these are beautiful ranty images. That's not an image of ranty. That's an image of a beautiful landscape somewhere in Scotland, I guess.
Damn it, my assumption of his meanings of words. This is what happens when you don't tie people down to a definition of a word. Ranty images, meaning images produced by ranty, not images of ranty. This is a beautiful ranty image right now. Oh, look at it, it's epic. And it makes 10th man's point beautifully.
Nathan, it seems like every time we pin the ballers to something, they come up with a new term. I'll give you two examples, and maybe the panel could bring on more that they've heard. Yesterday, it was the atmosphere is stuck to the earth. So they made that up. And on this subject today, they call it looming. No matter what you do, they make up a term to somehow describe that it's not what it's obviously showing.
Oh, if that's new to you, there are many different variants of looming. There's looming, or if it's a bit less than looming, it's slightly looming. Or, if it's very looming, it's super looming. I mean, this is where we end up with slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projections of objects behind an Earth curve that doesn't exist and you can't measure. That's why we end up with that kind of long-winded nonsense sentence about slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projections.
But Rumpus has come out with another one. Super looming. No, hang on. Let me just tell you what Rumpus's latest one is. Extreme super looming compression.
What you end up with ultimately, you end up with that weatherman that says, what you see here is a mirage. And that's what most people got into flat Earth because of something like that. And that's what you're ending up with. In other words, it's flat. And then they're calling it a mirage. And we're like, shut up, you dickhead. It's not flat. It's not a mirage. It's definitely not a ball. Right. I want to change topic a little bit. Nathan.
Yes.
How do you draw the line in the sand for what is considered to be good science over bad science?
You having me on? The scientific method.
Right. So would you say that if I got a scientist with, I think he said 30 or 40 years worth of experience, would you say that it's reasonable or unreasonable for me to have a conversation with him, provided that we talk about how we comply with scientific method in the whatever topic we talk about? In other words, I'm asking him to agree where the line in the sand is. Do you agree that scientific method's the line in the sand? And he wouldn't agree to it. So in the end, I had to tell him.
He wouldn't agree?
No. So I've realized I've done a video recently on my channel, and it was called Heliocentrists Abhor Scientific Method. If you haven't watched it, go and check it out. But basically, what I'm going to do now is just show you guys an issue. Just type in pseudoscience, and then you can type it. You just get definitions up. You get a whole page of them, and you can read through them all, and they basically say all the same kind of things. I tend to lean on the one that's at the top just because it's the one that everybody finds the easiest. You don't have to go with this one. You can find one yourself. I've presented this loads of times before. A collection of beliefs, heliocentricity, or practices, heliocentrism, studies of the Earth, mistakenly regarded as being based on scientific method. So in my most recent video, which is density is a demonstrable force in scientific method, relative density is gravity. This gentleman joins the comments, and his name is Professor Phil Bell. And basically, he said something at the beginning, and I said, what does that have to do with the point of this video? I don't think he even watched the video, but I'm looking for the part where he says he's a scientist of X amount of years experience. There we go. I've worked as a practicing scientist for over 40 years with numerous investigations, experiments, and demonstrations under my belt. On that basis, I can assure you that there are many strategies one can employ that constitutes doing science. And I said, I asked him for a definition for pseudoscience. And then he said, your request is trivial and irrelevant to me. Surely we can start this discussion at a higher level than that. I said, it's absolutely fundamental to science that we can distinguish between pseudoscience and good science. Why on earth would you say it's trivial unless you knew that your skills fell into pseudoscience? Now, at this point, I don't know what he does. He's just telling me he's a 40 years experienced scientist. And he won't agree to it. No, it's not. Have you practiced as a scientist? You should know the definitions are mere semantics. My question is simple. If you disagree with the standard models, why? And he wants to move off this, and I'm not letting him. So I gave him a citation from Anne-Marie Hemenstein, PhD, and that's more credible than me and probably more credible than him. Words have got precise meanings in science. For example, theory, law, and hypothesis do not all mean the same thing, da-di-da-di-da. And I said, I don't care to talk with you unless we can agree that we will be adhering to scientific method. I don't waste my time with fake science. Can we agree to adhere to scientific method or not? Does anybody see a problem asking a scientist to adhere to scientific method in a discussion? Because I don't.
Science is the scientific method.
Yeah. So he says, do you mean, does the evidence I rely on conform to good scientific principles? Of course it does. And I says, no, you missed the bit I rely on for the third time. Can we agree that whatever we discuss has to be based on scientific method, not based on good scientific principles, which are subjective and they're very and blurry edged. And he says one thing, I say another, and he says, I'm a scientist with 40 years experience. We thankfully have a framework and it's called scientific method. And I've said, no, can we agree that we have to base it on scientific method, or it falls outside of that and by definition is pseudoscience? Agree or not? And he won't do it. I agree that evidence should be based on good scientific principles. No, good scientific principles is not the standard. The standard is scientific method, because good scientific principles, again, are subjective. You can move the goalposts. And then he starts trying to move the goalposts. And I said, look, I'm being very explicit with what I'm asking. The line in the sand is drawn, is defined. I strongly suspect you won't agree to that standard because you know heliocentricity is pseudoscience. Last chance. Is the standard scientific method or not? Ignore this guy. I've deleted his comments. So I gave you my interpretation. This is the problem. I gave you my interpretation, which I'm pretty certain concurs with all scientists that I've come across. It's your choice whether or not you want to disclose your ideas about the solar system, yada, yada, yada. And basically, I said, you refuse to accept the standard that we are told is the line in the sand. I can only assume that you are a pseudoscientist presenting yourself as a scientist. Everybody in science seems to do this unless they comply with scientific method, and then they are actually a scientist. Anybody else is probably practicing technology, not practicing science, but believe or pass themselves off to be. Now, in one of his previous comments in here, he tells me what he does. Now, this is why I wanted to pin him on what the definition was for what standard we're going to accept. Here we go. And this is what he says. The best evidence I have is the reliance on this phenomena, whatever that is. Specifically, my team puts satellites into polar orbit, which is a configuration that ensures the satellites cover the entire Earth. Well, why did MH370 go missing? and during a specific time period that is achieved by a lateral rotation of the Earth whilst the satellite orbits from pole to pole at about 85 degrees inclination. This configuration is impossible. So that's why he won't agree to scientific method, because he does stuff what he believes to be satellites orbiting the Earth. So he can't agree to scientific method. And basically, I realized that, and I just wrapped the conversation up because I just said, look, satellites is not science, it's technology. And that's why he won't agree to it. So my point to this is that basically these ball earthers, they abhor scientific method. They swerve it at all times. And they claim things like, you don't understand this, you've misinterpreted this, you misrepresent this. So what I'm going to say is, if you haven't seen it, go and check it out, because it's a really good video. It's called Heliocentrists Abhor Scientific Method. The flat earthers need to demand not that we distinguish between science and pseudoscience. And we have an objective standard and a line in the sand that we can all understand. It's really straightforward. It's called scientific method. It's not that difficult. And basically, the conclusion of that is literally, you've got to wiggle what you think is the cause of the phenomena that you're seeing to prove that it is the phenomena. So you've got to wiggle it. And they don't like it, because they know they can't wiggle Earth curve. They know they can't wiggle axial rotation. They can't wiggle gravity. But they all tell us that these are the things that are called science. I'm saying no, that's not science. That's pseudoscience, because you can't manipulate that independent variable. So anybody on our side that gets challenged by any form of science, apply scientific method to it. Ask them what was the independent variable and how did they prove that it was the cause of the effect, because you've got to wiggle it. And they can't do it, they won't do it, and they never will do it, and they always have to concede. They won't concede, they'll say that you're stupid and they'll gaslight you in front of their friends. But we all know scientific method is the standard. Let's make sure we ram it down their throats, because this is where we win. They've got to concede that heliocentrism is pseudoscience. I'm done.
I just want to add a couple of things to, you mentioned experiments. Well, what are experiments? Well, they're hypothesis tests. So they would establish an independent and dependent variable relationship, a cause and effect relationship. That's what he said he does. Experiments. So if you've done experiments, establish cause and effect relationships, IV and DV relationships, then you'll know exactly why Anthony is asking for this. Secondly, he said it's just semantics. So now I know that John had Tim Osman over a barrel on this, and presumably will be a bit annoyed that I'm actually detailing the explanation for what semantics is. When someone says it's just semantics, noun, the branch of linguistics and logic concerned with meaning. The two main areas are logical semantics, concerned with matters such as sense and reference, and presupposition and implication, and lexical semantics, concerned with the analysis of word meanings and relations between them. So that is what semantics is. Words and their meanings. Quite critical if you're trying to discuss something. Anyway, with that, I will say, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. However, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley channel, then unfortunately this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who have joined us live, and of course a massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this live debate possible. If you need to keep yourself occupied after the live stream is over, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I say again, stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!